Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds does a great job of hitting on the most enticing matchups. Still, there are some that I think the writers missed out on, or could have been swapped in if events had unfolded differently. In this list, I'll count down my top 10 wish they dueled matchups for 5Ds. Some rules as we go down the list, and these are just rules I applied myself as always, so feel free to bend or break them as you comment your own dream matchups. First, the duel can't have appeared in the anime. Second, if the duel is partially shown, then that pairing is not eligible for this list. However, I am now opening it up to fully unseen duels. Third, also unlike the DM and GX list, 1v2, 2v2, and any other arrangement can be broken up into a 1v1, so long as that 1v1 pairing didn't take place. 4. Matchups seen in the WRGP can be used so long as that 1v1 pairing didn't take place. 5. Only characters introduced in 5Ds are eligible for this list. And 6. Characters in a brainwashed or evil state do not count as their regular forms, so as long as a particular form didn't face off against a particular character, that matchup is eligible. With that said, let's start counting down.
Number 10.
Crow versus Kiryu. This one doesn't have as much of a narrative draw. Yes, they're both Team Satisfaction members, but easily the pairing that is least enticing, and there isn't a moment in the story that would necessitate them dueling. What I like about this matchup is that it pits two premier archetypes that feature in 5Ds in terms of which ones had the most success in the real-life game: Blackwings and Infernities, with both at their height winning multiple YCSs and each winning Worlds as well. So it would have been cool to see how they scripted in the anime. Pretty tough one to call. I'd say Kiryu earlier in the series, and Crow by the end has overtaken him.
Number 9.
Bomber versus Rex. I always prefer getting the lead villain more than one on-screen duel, and so if Rex was going to duel somebody before the reveal that he was the big bad, this would have made sense because the motivation is all through Bomber, who discovers that Rex is responsible for the destruction of his village. I do think you'd have to choose between this and Bomber's duel with Crow because giving a side character that many high-leverage duels would be an odd choice, even if they both narratively make sense. I thought the duel with Crow is quietly one of the better duels of 5Ds, and Rex would smash Bomber anyway, so what we got is fine, and that's why this matchup doesn't rank too high. But again, for the sake of getting our lead villain at least one win, this was the one to do it.
Number 8.
Team Unicorn versus Team Ragnarok. No disrespect to Team Taio, but I thought Unicorn and Ragnarok were the most interesting teams from the WRGP. Unicorn is the team that has the reputation of Team Turbo dueling champs, while Ragnarok is rocking the Nordic gods. I like Unicorn as a team more, I'm just not sure they have a way to defeat the Nordics, and Team Ragnarok is probably the main character of any other in-universe story that doesn't involve the signers. If you ask me, there's a lot more that could have been done with the WRGP, and an alternative route would have been for Team 5Ds to lose their initial bout against Team Unicorn, but then have Ragnarok eliminate Unicorn from the playoffs, which would add far more drama than what we got with the tournament.
Number 7.
Sherry versus Antene, who I guess at this point would be Bruno. This one has a moment where it maybe could have happened, but instead we got a fist fight between the two when Sherry was trying to uncover what the zone card was. I always thought these two would duel at some point since they were both mysterious figures introduced at the same time who both befriended Yusei. It always felt like one was actually on the good side and one was actually on the bad side, and Yusei's overtrusting nature was going to burn him by one while the other swooped in to save the day, and I suppose that's kinda true minus these two actually getting to duel. Still, it's an interesting matchup for a number of other reasons, namely that neither of them duel very often, but are still regarded as two of the best duelists in the series with the little that they did show. I'll take Antene.
Number 6.
Lua versus Luca. Yeah, I'm shocked we didn't even get to see this in the background of some scene as a friendly duel, say in preparation for the face-off against the Dark Signers or during a Duel Academy scene. So whether it has stakes or not, seeing the twins square off would have been fun to see because you just know Lua's gonna go into it pumping his chest, only for his sister to mop the floor with him. Well, that is until Lua gets his own Signer Dragon, then all bets are off, and that would be especially fun to see.
Number 5.
Jack versus Kiryu. This one occurs in episode 152 as part of Jack's training leading up to his final duel with Yusei. Personally, I hate that this duel is unseen. Not just because it would have been fun to see, but because it does a disservice to both characters, because if you were to ask me who before this point I thought was better based on everything we know, I'd say Kiryu. I'm not saying Jack couldn't win, but seeing how he pulled it off would have been good because Jack sorely lacks quality 1v1 wins. Plus, Infinities are just a fun deck to see in action, and all of Kiryu's duels are a treat. Plus, we have the added bonus of these two having history of being on Team Satisfaction together, and really being the two who turned their back on Yusei. So it's really like a battle of who screwed over Yusei more.
Number 4.
Antene versus Zone. We got Aporia versus Zone as a redemption on the part of the former, and it certainly would have been redundant for Antene to do the same, but if Aporia wasn't the one to do it, I would have loved to see Antene be the one instead. I really respect Antene as a duelist, and while the Time Lords are in universe super busted, Antene has the dueling smarts to at least put up just as worthy a fight as Aporia did. This matchup also has the narrative boost that Antene represents Zone's last bit of hope, which is why he was sent to teach Yusei Excel Synchroing. So the matchup essentially holds a mirror up to Zone as to whether he will lean toward hope or despair. Hard to argue anyone defeating Zone other than Yusei, but this would still be a good one to see.
Number 3.
Crow versus Yusei. It is just wild we don't get to see the MC duel his best friend. Again, another one of those even if it's just a casual, but as the Yugi-Joey matchup showed us, this dynamic has a ton of promise to deliver a great duel. This one also had the perfect opportunity to occur in episode 73 when Yusei asked Jack to duel so he can work on a non-synchro way of dueling to combat Ghost. He could have just asked Crow instead. These two also have the added bonus of being on the same team together, but it goes beyond that because they were childhood friends roughing it through the slums of Satellite and putting together their respective decks with cards they found laying around. Of course, we give Yusei the edge, but still would make for a great duel.
Number 2.
Crow versus Jack, putting the bow on Crow versus the Enforcer pairings, and another one of those dynamics that 5Ds didn't capitalize on. Jack isn't a total Kaiba figure since he and Crow are largely on friendly terms, so this matchup doesn't have the exact same flavor as Kaiba Joey, but that doesn't make it any less enticing. I feel like the writers barely scratched the surface on Crow and Jack's relationship, relegated mostly to comic relief and arguments. But as mentioned with a couple of previous entries, these are two previous team members, they did grow up together, they are both signers, and honestly, this is the toughest matchup on the list to call. I know it just gets assumed that Jack is better than Crow, but other than his side quest for Red Nova, what evidence do we have that this is not a complete toss-up? Crow himself doesn't lose any non-WRGP duel, except the one he loses on purpose to the Clock Eye, whereas Jack loses a handful and wins others on the backs of his opponent throwing. That's what lands this matchup so high on this list, because it has build-up between the characters, both have strong decks, and is the closest duel to call.
Number 1.
Aki versus Divine. This one we are very briefly shown when Divine first meets Aki and tests her abilities, but since it's mostly unseen and taking place in a completely different context, I'm allowing it for this list. This matchup had so much potential written all over it. The Arcadia movement was perfectly positioned to be the lurking force turned big boss a la Bakura in Duel Monsters and Darkness in GX. But unfortunately, it got brushed aside post Darksiders arc, where we didn't even learn of its fate except in the 10th anniversary guidebook. Anywho, Aki never really seemed to get over her dependence on Divine, even as it was becoming clear to her that the Arcadia movement wasn't what it seemed. So to give her a duel against the leader to finally put to rest her misplaced sense of trust and loyalty, while avenging everything he did to sidekicks like herself, would have been a great moment for her that would have made her character complete. Instead, she was sort of just middling after the Darksiders arc. I also love Divine's character, and it sucks 5Ds didn't lean more into the psychic side of things because A, it would be interesting to see non-psychics overcome it, and B, psychics were a new type that debuted at this time, so it even has the added bonus of helping to sell cards. So that does it for my top 10 list of Wish They Dueled 5Ds edition. Honestly, a bit of a tough list to pull together because there aren't too many characters I wish we saw duel more, and 5Ds otherwise hit on all the good matchups. Comment below who you think would win each of these pairings on my list, and what are some of the other hypothetical matchups you would have loved to see. And be sure to like and subscribe for more countdown list and Yu-Gi-Oh content in the future.